Hello children, today's topic is factors affecting equilibrium. In previous lecture, we discussed about different kinds of equilibria, how to predict the direction of reaction, how to calculate the concentrations of different components present at equilibria. Now, what are the factors which affect the equilibria? The main factors which affect the equilibria stage are: first is concentration. Second one, pressure. Third one, temperature. These are the some factors which can affect the equilibrium stage. Now first we discuss about concentration. Although we talked about that, the initial concentration of reactants and products, it doesn't affect the equilibrium stage. But once the equilibrium is attained, at this stage, if we change the concentration of any one of the component, then definitely it will disturb the equilibrium stage. So, the purpose of every chemical reaction is this, that to maximize the product formation. So, this is the purpose, that maximize the product formation. But in reversible reactions, how do we maximize the product formation? What can we do for that? So this we will be talking about in this topic. And the effect of different factors on equilibrium stage is further explained by using Le-Chatelier's principle. So before talking about all these factors, we should discuss about Le-Chatelier's principle, that what is this principle? According to Le-Chatelier's principle, that whenever any change of concentration, pressure, temperature is introduced at equilibrium stage, the reaction moves in that direction which undo the effect employed. Understood, children? The meaning of this is that if at equilibrium stage, if we introduce any change, means if after attaining equilibrium, if I am changing concentration, or I am changing temperature, or I am changing pressure, then how the reaction behaves? It will move in that direction which will cancel out the effect. Reaction behaves in such a way to nullify the change which we have introduced. This is the meaning of Le-Chatelier's principle. So now we are starting with concentration factor, that on changing concentration, how it affects the equilibrium stage. So just take one example, formation of hydrogen iodide. By the reaction between hydrogen and iodine, Hi is formed. So what happens once the equilibrium stage is attained? The reaction reaches to equilibrium. At that stage, if we add some amount of hydrogen, we are increasing the concentration of hydrogen by adding some more hydrogen into the reaction mixture. Now, if we add more amount of hydrogen, it will consume more iodine. And when it consumes more iodine, why it consumes more iodine? Because according to Le-Chatelier principle, reactions moves in opposite direction to nullify that effect. So once the concentration of hydrogen is increased, the reaction will try to consume that increased hydrogen. So to consume that increased hydrogen, it will combine with more iodine, and if it will combine with more iodine, we will get more Hi. Means the reaction will move in forward direction. So, and similarly, if we add more iodine, same, it will consume more hydrogen and the reaction will proceed in forward direction. So, simply if we increase the concentration of reactants to nullify that effect of increased concentration of reactants, reaction will proceed in forward direction. This we can also attain in reverse way. How? Suppose if I add more amount of Hi at the stage of equilibrium, then to nullify the effect of increased concentration of Hi, now the decomposition rate of HI will increases. It decomposes at a faster rate, so the reaction will proceed in backward direction. So I think now the meaning of Le Chatelier's principle is clear. The reaction will always move in opposite direction to cancel out the effect which we have introduced. This effect of increased concentration of hydrogen or iodine also we can show in graphical way, like on this axis we take concentration of reactants as well as products. For example, these are the equilibrium concentrations. This is the equilibrium concentration of hydrogen. This is the equilibrium concentration of iodine. And this is the equilibrium concentration of HI. So these are their equilibrium concentration. This is the T1 time period where equilibrium condition is there. Now if we disturb the equilibrium condition, as we talked that by adding some more amount of hydrogen. If I am adding some more amount of hydrogen to the mixture. So how we show it graphically? I am increasing concentration of hydrogen, adding more hydrogen. Suppose this is the point, concentration of hydrogen now. So if I add more hydrogen, as we discussed, it will consume more iodine. So slowly concentration of reactant will decrease. Concentration of reactant will start decreasing like this. Same, it will consume more iodine. Concentration of iodine will start decreasing, and when we are adding more amount of reactant, they react at a faster rate and we get more product. Concentration of HI will start increasing. So this was initial stage of equilibrium when the reaction was at equilibrium. Now this is the stage where equilibrium condition is disturbed by adding more amount of hydrogen to the reaction mixture. So this is the second stage where there is no equilibrium condition. We disturbed it. And finally the equilibrium is restored. But you can see more amount of HI is formed. So equilibrium re-established. Equilibrium re-established. Similarly, we can talk about few more examples like ammonia formation gives to NH3. The commercial preparation of ammonia, the name of method is termed as Haber's process. Haber's process. So industrially ammonia is prepared by the reaction of nitrogen and hydrogen, but again the reaction is reversible. So if we want to increase the production of ammonia, it can be attained in two ways, either by adding more reactants at the stage of equilibrium, as we talked in case of HI formation, or the second way, we can continuously remove product from the reaction mixture. If we continuously remove the product from the reaction mixture, the amount of product decreases, and if amount of product decreases, to maintain the equilibrium, reaction will proceed in forward direction. So it's a very important commercial use of this principle, because ammonia is used as a fertilizer, a very important fertilizer. In the formation of many fertilizers, ammonia is used. Similarly, decomposition of calcium carbonate decomposes into calcium oxide and CO2. Calcium oxide is also a very important in the building material. So to increase the production of calcium oxide, CO2 should be removed continuously from the reaction mixture. If CO2 is continuously removed from the reaction mixture, the amount of product decreases and calcium oxide cannot recombine with CO2 to give back calcium carbonate. In this way, we can increase the production of calcium oxide. This effect of concentration on equilibrium can also be discussed in terms of QC. If we add more reactant to the reaction mixture, we know QC is the ratio of molar concentration of products to that of reactants. Reactants they appear in denominator. So if the amount of reactant is increased at equilibria, so means reactance increases in denominator, so the value of QC comes less as compared to KC. And if the value of QC decreases as compared to KC, as we talked in previous lecture, in this case, to re-establish the equilibrium, reaction will move in forward direction, means it will increase the product formation. So I think children, now it's clear that how the change of concentration at equilibria will affect the formation of product. So there are two ways to increase the product formation. First, by adding more reactant at equilibrium stage. So reaction will move in forward direction. Second, continuously remove the products from the reaction mixture. Don't allow product to collect over there, so that we can suppress the backward reaction and we increase the rate of forward reaction. One more example to understand the effect of concentration. If we take the reaction between ferric solution with thiocyanate solution it will give us ferric thiocyanate Now the color of ferric solution is yellow colored solution, thiocyanate solution colorless, and ferric thiocyanate solution red colored solution. So by simply checking the intensity of color, we can easily tell how the equilibria is re-established, whether it is going in forward or backward whenever we introduced any change. Suppose at the stage of equilibria, to this solution, once the equilibrium is established, now into this solution I am adding some amount of oxalic acid. Before adding oxalic acid, children, what happens? As soon as I add few drops of thiocyanate solution to the ferric solution, immediately a red color appears due to the formation of ferric thiocyanate. And slowly the intensity of red color increases. How do we come to know that equilibrium is attained? Simply whenever the intensity of red color becomes constant, that is the stage of equilibrium. Now once that intensity of red color becomes constant, at that point, suppose if we add some amount of oxalic acid solution, to this solution. Now how this oxalic acid solution changes the direction of equilibrium? I am giving you the changes will taking place, then you decide the direction of equilibrium forward or backward. Oxalic acid solution will provide oxalate ion. It will provide oxalate ion. Oxalate ions consumes the ferric ion of the solution, forming a stable complex here. It will consume the oxalate ion, will consume ferric ion from the solution, forming a stable complex ferric oxalate. So now children, it's your turn to tell the intensity of red color after adding oxalic acid will increase or decrease. Take a moment, use Le-Chatelet principle and then decide that whether the intensity of red color now increases or decreases. Taken your decision? Shall we discuss now? Okay. So, as I told, when we add oxalic acid, it will provide oxalate ion. Oxalate ion will consume the ferric ion from the solution, forming this stable complex. So, as the ferric ions are consumed, concentration of reactant decreases. To maintain this concentration of reactants now, equilibrium will move in backward direction. Moving in backward direction so that we get more ferric ion, because already the concentration of ferric ion gets decreased due to consumption by oxalate ion. So it will move in backward direction. It means now the intensity of red color will start decreasing. Second situation I am giving you here. Now to this solution I am adding mercuric chloride. What I am adding? Mercuric chloride. It will provide mercuric ion. This ion will consume thiocyanate ion from the solution. Here mercuric ion will consume the thiocyanate ion from the solution and again forming a stable complex with thiocyanate solution. This ion will make a stable complex with thiocyanate, right? So again this is your turn to decide now how equilibrium is disturbed, because mercury chloride is giving mercuric ion. Mercuric ion will consume which ion? Thiocyanate ion from the solution, forming this stable complex mercuric thiocyanate. Now as the thiocyanate ion is consumed, again the concentration of reactant decreases. To maintain this concentration of reactants, decomposition rate of ferric thiocyanate increases so that this reduced concentration is maintained. Again reaction will move in backward direction. So we can say the intensity of red color further decreases. So if you are adding these two, then as they are consuming the ions, one of the ion of reactant, so reaction will move in backward direction. The intensity of red color will decrease. Now in this case I am giving you a third option. These were the two options. Now third option is for you children. If to this solution I add potassium thiocyanate, what I am adding? Potassium thiocyanate. Just react how this equilibrium behaves now. Intensity of red color will increase or decrease. I think now you don't need any hint from my side. You can easily do. Yes, I think you people, you have reached on your answer, and most probably your answer is right. Just compare your answer with my explanation. Now we are adding potassium thiocyanate. Means I am providing thiocyanate ion to the solution. When I am providing thiocyanate ion to the solution, I am increasing concentration one of the reactant. Now this reactant will consume increased amount of thiocyanate, will consume more amount of ferric ion from the solution, and when it consumes more ferric ion, so we will get more amount of ferric thiocyanate. Means in this third case intensity of red color will increases. Now in this example we discuss the effect of concentration by changing all three components. I am summarizing this. In first case I added oxalic acid, that oxalate ion consumed ferric ions. So equilibrium moved in forward direction to maintain the decreased amount of ferric. In second situation I added mercury chloride. The mercuric ion, they consumed thiocyanate ion. Now the concentration of thiocyanate decreases. To maintain that decreased amount of thiocyanate, further equilibrium moved in backward, decomposition rate increases and intensity of red color decreases. In third case what we did, we added more thiocyanate ion even. We added more thiocyanate ion. Now the intensity of red color increases because equilibrium will move in forward direction. So this is the effect of change of concentration. Second factor is effect of pressure. Again take Example, Haber's process. So once equilibrium is attained, now we change the pressure. How can we do this? For example, this is a gas cylinder fitted with a piston. Reaction between nitrogen and hydrogen is going on. So this is the point where the piston is present at a balanced stage. Suppose the pressure here is P1. Volume of reaction mixture, let it be V1. Now if I increase the pressure on piston, on increasing pressure the piston will move in downward direction. So on applying more pressure to the reaction mixture, now this is the final position of piston. Suppose this is the final position of piston and the volume of reaction mixture now decreased from V1 to V2. When we increase pressure, let the final pressure is P2. So on, and the value of P2 is greater than P1. So now this situation is clear, I think. When we apply more pressure, of course the volume decreases and this is the final volume of reaction mixture. Now children, try to answer that in this stage, number of mole per unit volume will increase or decrease. What is my question? Number of moles of gaseous mixture per unit volume will increase or decrease. Yes, your answer is correct. It will increase because whatever the number of moles are initially present in this much volume. Now the same number of moles are present in this reduced volume. So number of, on increasing pressure, now what is the situation children? That on increasing pressure, number of moles per unit volume will increase. So to re-establish the equilibrium, Le-Chatelier's principle says that it will move in opposite direction to undo that effect. As now the number of moles increased, so to re-establish equilibrium will go in the direction of more number of moles or towards less number of moles. Yes, clear I think? Towards lesser number of moles, because always opposite shifting will take place to nullify the effect. I am repeating this again. On increasing pressure, volume decreases. Boyle's law, pressure and volume are inversely proportional. On increasing pressure, volume decreases. So total number of moles per unit area will increase. To nullify that effect of increased number of moles, now equilibrium will go in the direction of lesser number of moles. So if we take this example, now what is the favorable condition for Haber's process? One condition we already discussed, that continuously remove the product from the gaseous mixture by liquefying the ammonia gas. This was the effect of concentration, that keep on removing the ammonia by liquefying it, so that the reaction will proceed in forward direction. Now second, we can talk about pressure also. Here the total number of moles of reactants are 4 moles of reactants. But children, be careful, it should be for gaseous stage, because for liquids and solids they are almost incompressible, so there is no major role of pressure over there. So this factor is mostly important for gaseous components only. So total number of moles of reactant are 4 and number of moles of product are 2. And as we discussed, on increasing pressure, as number of moles per unit volume increases, so the reaction will proceed in the direction of lesser number of moles. Means in this case the number of moles of reactants are 4, products are 2. So of course the reaction will proceed in forward direction. So this is the second condition we are having from Haber's process, that how to increase ammonia production by increasing pressure, because if we increase the pressure, reaction will go in the direction of lesser number of moles, means forward direction. Try to use this. For one more example I am giving you. Take the reaction between carbon monoxide and hydrogen, giving methane and water. Can you write the reaction or shall I write for you? Carbon monoxide and hydrogen giving methane gas. So how do we increase the production of methane? First, effect of concentration, that is by continuous removing of products from the reaction mixture, so that the amount of product is less and continuously the reaction will go in forward direction. Now you try to answer for effect of pressure. But be careful children, whenever you decide the effect of pressure, always first balance the given equation. As this is an unbalanced equation, so balance it. Carbon, oxygen already balanced, just take the hydrogen, 6 hydrogen are towards that side, where we have 2 hydrogen, so multiply this by 3. Now how do we increase the rate of forward reaction? By increasing pressure or decreasing? Remember one thing, on increasing pressure, the reaction will go in the direction where lesser number of moles are present. So just check the number of moles of products. 3 plus 1, 4. All gaseous components. Total moles, number of moles of reactant, 2. Again similar to Haber's process, that's clear. As the number of moles of products are less, so of course on increasing pressure the reaction will go in forward direction. So yes, this reaction is also favored by high pressure. One more example for you. Reaction between hydrogen and iodine. Indicate the physical states, and then the second thing is balance the equation. The balanced equation is this. Now answer, what would happen? This reaction will be favored by low pressure or high pressure. Some of you are saying by low pressure, some by high pressure. I should go with which answer? Again, we have to count the number of moles. Number of moles of reactants are 2 moles. Number of moles of reactants are 2. For product, again 2. Confused? In both cases 2 moles are there, so how to answer? No effect of pressure. Clear children? If the number of moles of reactants and products are same, there is no effect of pressure. The pressure can only affect those gaseous reactions where number of moles of reactants and products are different. If the number of moles of reactants and products are same, no effect of pressure. Third factor is effect of temperature. To check how temperature changes the equilibrium stage of mixture, again take an example, dimerization of NO2. Dimerization of NO2 converted into N2O4. NO2 is a brown colored gas, whereas N2O4 is a colorless gas. This is brown and that one is a colorless gas. And the dimerization process of N2O4 enthalpy change for the reaction is minus 57.2 kilojoule per mole. Children, you don't have to learn this value of enthalpy, only for your information. But yes, you should know this much, that whether the reaction is exothermic or endothermic. Yes, can you tell me whether this reaction is exothermic or endothermic reaction? How can we check this? If you remember thermodynamics, you can easily tell me this. Delta H is negative. Negative sign indicates the reaction is exothermic. Yes, it is. Dimerization process of NO2 is an exothermic process. Now to check the effect of pressure, take 2 test tubes filled with NO2 gas. We are taking 2 test tubes filled with NO2 gas and seal these test tubes properly and place both the test tubes in a beaker containing water at room temperature. Seal them properly. This is the instruction. They should be properly sealed. Filled with NO2 gas in both cases, and we are placing these test tubes in a beaker containing water at room temperature, that is 298 Kelvin, right? Placed where we are having water at room temperature 298 Kelvin. So as we have placed both the test tubes in same environment, means the intensity of this brown color is same in both the test tubes. Now what we do, take 2 more beakers, one filled with hot water, second having freezing mixture. So this is test tube 1 and this is test tube 2. Place the first test tube into this beaker and second test tube into this tube. Clear? Test tube 2 and test tube 1. What is the change in first and second? First we have taken freezing mixture. Clear? First we have taken freezing mixture, suppose at 270 Kelvin temperature. Second we have taken hot water, let at 370 Kelvin temperature. I think the experimental setup is clear to you children. First, how we started? Took 2 test tubes filled with NO2 gas, means we can see brown color in these 2 test tubes because we know NO2 is a brown colored gas. Place both the test tubes into a beaker filled with water at room temperature. Why we are doing this children before doing the second step? So that the intensity of brown color becomes same in both the test tubes. That's why for 8 to 10 minutes we place these test tubes, beaker filled with water at room temperature. Now we transfer these 2 test tubes separately, one in a beaker containing freezing mixture, second test tube in the beaker containing hot water. So now can you judge the change in intensity of color in both the test tubes? Remains same, intensifies, decreases the intensity of color? We can easily answer on the basis of this equation. As we know, forward reaction is exothermic because its delta H is negative. Exothermic means favored by low temperature. So the test tube 1, which is transferred in first beaker, as the temperature is low, initially it was at room temperature, now it is in freezing mixture, so we have decreased the temperature. Decrease of temperature will favor the forward reaction. So here the reaction will go in forward direction. It will go in forward direction, means the intensity of brown color starts decreasing because it favors the formation of N2O4. Dimerization process is fast. But what happens in that beaker? Here the temperature is high. High temperature favors the decomposition of N2O4 because obviously if the forward is exothermic, then backward would be endothermic. So as backward is endothermic, means high temperature favors the decomposition of N2O4. This is a colorless gas, so it will start decomposing into NO2. So more NO2 is formed here It means in this test tube the color intensity will start increasing. This is how the temperature change will affect the equilibrium. This is a question for you children. Here you have to answer how the temperature is affecting this equilibrium. Let me tell you one thing. This is for this reaction, delta H is positive. And let me tell you the color. Tetrachlorocobalt compound, this is blue colored compound, and hexaquacobalt compound, this is a pink color compound. Situation is clear to you? Hexaquacobalt compound, that is pink colored compound. Tetrachlorocobalt compound, this is a blue compound, and delta H for this reaction is positive. Delta H positive, what does it indicate? That the reaction is endothermic. Right now, clear the situation, the reaction is endothermic. The previous example we discussed where the forward reaction was exothermic. In this case, forward is endothermic. Now my question is, if I place this mixture, reaction mixture into freezing mixture, what would be the color of mixture? Blue or pink? Take a while and just answer. Shall I repeat what I am doing? I am placing this reaction mixture into a freezing mixture. Now it will show pink color or blue color. I think I am getting mixed answers. Some of you are saying pink, some of you are saying blue, but those who are saying pink, they are right. Because as we know, forward is endothermic. Means high temperature will favor forward reaction, so blue color. So at room temperature, the reaction mixture is blue due to the formation of more tetrachlorocobalt compound. But when we place this mixture into a freezing mixture, means it will favor the backward reaction now. Because if forward is endothermic, backward is exothermic. So on placing into freezing mixture, it favors the backward reaction, means now the color of mixture becomes blue. Fourth factor is effect of catalyst. Now first we should know what do we mean by catalyst. I think most of you know that catalyst is the substance which changes the rate of reaction and itself remains unchanged at the end of reaction. So whenever we define catalyst, we always use the term substance which changes the rate of reaction. Itself remains unchanged at the end of reaction, but mostly the catalyst term is used in positive sense. So we can also say the catalyst is the chemical substance which increases the rate of reaction. Actually, the better term for this is positive catalyst. But yes, we can say even simply catalyst, always used in positive sense, which increases the rate of reaction, but itself remains unchanged. That is a chemical catalyst. Now, how catalyst changes the equilibrium state? Children, please listen very carefully. When catalyst increases the rate of reaction, obviously it provides a new low energy path for the reaction to proceed. So in this case, the reactants and products, they crosses through same transition stage. Or I can say that the catalyst will decreases the activation energy of reactant. What it will do? It will decreases the activation energy. It will decreases the activation energy, and by decreasing the activation energy means it activates the reactant to react faster. So as it decreases the activation energy for the reactants and products equally, means I can say for forward as well as for backward reaction equally. A catalyst will decrease activation energy for forward as well as for backward reactions to same extent. That's why it does not affect the equilibrium stage at all. So we can say there is no effect of presence of catalyst at equilibrium stage. last factor is effect of addition of inert gas to the reaction mixture. Any reaction you can take, Haber's process between CO and hydrogen, H2 and I2, any reaction you can take. If we add an inert gas, once the equilibrium is attained, like noble gases, 18th group, helium, neon, argon, krypton, xenon, any inert gas, if we are adding to the reaction mixture at constant volume should not change. Whenever we are adding inert gas to the mixture at constant volume, as the volume remains constant and the gas does not take part in the chemical reaction because it is inert, and volume remains constant means it will not change the partial pressure of the components. Total number of moles present in per unit volume also remains unchanged. That's why no effect on equilibrium stage. So again, on adding inert gas at constant volume, no effect on equilibrium. Why no effect? Two reasons. One, as it is inert, does not take part in chemical combinations. Second reason, it doesn't change the partial pressure of the components or the total moles present in per unit volume because we are adding it at constant volume. So it does not affect the equilibrium stage. So with this we completed all the factors which affects the equilibrium. Now I am giving you two questions for your practice. One, Haber's process. Haber's process, that is industrial process for ammonia formation. Industrial process for formation of ammonia. The chemical reaction taking place in Haber's process is N2 plus 3H2 gives you 2 NH3. Enthalpy change for the reaction minus 46.1 kilojoule per mole. Second process which I am giving to you is contact process for the manufacturing of sulfuric acid. Contact process. Industrial process for formation of sulfuric acid. The chemical reaction taking place for contact process is, this is one of the intermediate reaction, although not the complete process, but the formation of sulfuric acid depends on this intermediate step, giving SO3 gas. Delta H for the process is kilojoule per mole. So these are the two reactions for your practice. What you have to do in both the cases, you need to tell what are the optimum conditions for the formation of sulfuric acid by contact process and ammonia by Haber's process. Yes children, before starting, better balance all the equations, indicate their physical states also. So these two questions you have to try. All necessary informations I have written here. What you have to tell, what are the optimum conditions to maximize the production of ammonia by Haber's process and sulfuric acid by contact process. This is one of the intermediate reaction for contact process which is responsible to increase the production of sulfuric acid. So on what basis you have to answer? By using Le-Chatelier's principle, that what all factors are required to maximize the production of ammonia and for sulfuric acid. With this lecture means if different factors which are affecting equilibrium stage, their commercial importance, Le-Chatelier principle, all these parameters we have covered in this lecture. So please do these questions.